Do you guys ever have those really intense games where you win, but you're actually not really sure why and you felt like it was mostly up to luck? Well, I had one of those recently, and I really want to understand better why I won this game, so therefore I'm going to review it. I hope this video will teach you guys some of the methods that I used to understand why I won the game, so I can keep doing what I did correct and maybe even correct some of the plays that maybe were the reasons for the game were so long. And I actually thought about making this a series of games, so in the future if I have other games like this, I might even make like a series and make that a number 2. But another thing I actually thought about is that you guys can even send me your game. So if you upload your POV to YouTube, you could send me that link and then I could actually review your game and try and help you understand why you won the game that you won. So yeah, with all of that being said, let's get right into this game. One of the first things that I almost always do when I get into a game is look at the scoreboard. And here, right away, I noticed that we are double ranged and some of the longest ranged champions in the bot lane. This means we should be able to achieve prio in the early levels of bot lane. Another thing to notice is the junglers matchups as well. So our Karthus will most likely start blue and then full clear to top side. Therefore, I can't really expect him to be around in bot side if Xin Zhao decides to path towards bot side. So when I have prio or I plan to shove in the enemy team, it becomes super important to understand where the enemy jungler is at certain times. And if you look at the beginning of this game, we can see that the Xin Zhao, he started topside. And the way that I know this is because if I look at the enemy bot lane, well then they try to cheese us at level 1 in the bush, while the enemy top laner is missing, meaning that he's most likely leashing. This gives me the information that Xin Zhao is pathing towards bot side, meaning I can't just mindlessly shove the enemy team in without getting ganked. Usually it takes the jungler 3 minutes to get from one side to another, meaning that that's the key timer for when I possibly will get ganked. As you can see, I take control over the lane in this laning phase, but right before the 3-minute mark, I tell my support to back off and we just try to take a cheater recon instead of giving the enemy bot lane a hard time on the turret, because I'm certain that it would get us killed by a Xin Zhao gank. Unfortunately, my recall does get cancelled, but the main goal was to avoid dying to the Xin, and that was achieved from my decision making. At the minute 4, you can then see the enemy bot lane starts fighting us, and we actually get a Lux Q onto 6, getting him down to 1 HP. This caused me to completely forget about the possibility that Xin Zhao might have full cleared and then done scuttle and therefore still be bot side. Turns out he was, and I died becoming too greedy trying to get that last hit onto 6, netting me that kill. One of the good things I noticed I did this game that definitely could have had a factor on why I won is constantly telling my team where the Xin is. I know after killing me at the 4:30-minute mark he would reset and path towards topside. I know this because that's the only camp he is up since he started topside. By typing this in chat I might prevent the death from my top laner, so that's for sure something I should do more often. So after I died, coming back to lane, we just started creating slow pushes, shoved it in on the turret, and then had a slow push coming back to us. And we kind of kept repeating that because Lux and Leona wasn't really finding any engages, so bot lane became really inactive. And we just started power farming and tried to scale for the later stages in the game. As the game goes on, frustration is slowly building up, but one of the better things that I did this game was I usually didn't type at all, besides from the communication of tracking the enemy jungler. I really just stayed cool this game, which is something I should be a little bit better at. Sometimes I do get into arguments with people, which is just pointless because that just makes the game completely unwinnable. And this coolness also rewarded me later on because me and Lux have finally poked down the 6 far enough to where I can hit him with an ultimate. Slightly not enough damage, but Karthus ult does pull him off, and therefore we finally get our first kill participation at the 13-minute mark. A few minutes later in the game, the real fiesta starts to begin. So far the lane has been extremely peaceful after my death, but that was about to end. Xin Zhao starts hovering bot lane for a good 4 minutes, where I do almost cut him off right in the beginning, but unfortunately his ultimate can dodge Karthus ult. Yeah, broken, right? Anyways, he survives. Randomly we then spot Urgot bot side, no one knows why. He's here, but he decides to be here for a while. This is probably a mistake on my end where I should have been more careful, because now 6 just decides to throw everything he got at me and it actually almost killed me. Leona then catches my Lux and they end up killing her. As they're killing Lux, I'm randomly just getting hit by an Urgot ultimate from out of nowhere, and this really caught me off guard, so he just pulls me into the blender. So he had randomly sat in our jungle for a good 2 to 3 minutes. Overall, this was like super random, but we did spot him, so I probably just should have been more careful till he had shown topside again. So this is definitely a mistake on our end, because we just shouldn't have been fighting until he was showing again. So we were secure that he wasn't doing this kind of play. Another thing to mention here is that, as you noticed, most likely I'm also the one starting a surrender vote. And I had a really rough day with my games, so that's most likely the reason why I was just really tilted with all these bad starts to games, so I really didn't believe in this one, even though I was still going to play it out. So the thing about me that I think that's different between a lot of other players is that even though I vote yes to a game where I think it's completely lost, if people vote no, I will still like try my best to win the game. And that's kind of what's happening here, even though I think I should probably never start a surrender vote if no one else is willing to surrender, because it just does bring some tilt to the team. So this is probably also something I should just not do in general. I shouldn't be the one starting a surrender vote, but I think it's fine to vote yes and still continue playing if people are deciding that it's not going to be surrendered. After my second death, I decided to go mid lane, and it was pretty much now laning phase was over. At the 19-minute mark, super late than usual games, but sometimes laning phases just drag out, and in a game like this it definitely came to my favor since my solo laners had fed quite a bit, so going up there would most likely just get me killed right away. As I'm just holding mid lane now, I just noticed a bot lane skirmish and I actually decided to go and help. Unfortunately, I did just face check Yone completely and without even realizing at first, so I kind of just panicked and whiffed my E almost back into him when I realized, and just barely I actually managed to get out here with my flash when he ulted for me. But this was actually a good thing though, even though it's a bit lucky that I live, because it results in TF later on picking him up with his flash. So we actually just get a profit kill here. The team has started to do the Baron. And here I honestly don't know what I was thinking watching the replay, but I seem to be solo fish checking Baron as an AD carry, which is a huge no-go. And as you can see here, this time Yone actually ends up killing me with Leona in the flank, and my team does trade a few kills back successfully, but only because the enemy AD carry and jungler were doing the Baron while my team was fighting. If I had waited, we for sure probably could afford them off, or even maybe killed them for doing this Baron since we're all alive. So it was a huge mistake for me from just solo face checking, and often this will actually result in my team just falling back and giving Baron, because of the fact that when an AD carry is dead, you really often don't want to fight. So this whole thing resulted in the enemy team acing us and getting a Baron, which really drowned the hope of winning on our team. And the outcome here could completely have changed if I didn't just solo check the Baron and solo died for no reason. So while the enemy team had reset after doing the Baron, I quickly scoop up the jungle just to prevent them from getting it when they're coming back, because now we really just have one goal: stay in the base and stall out the Baron. We really do not want to die, because if we do, we're gonna lose the game. So we are just basically staying in the base and not trying to leave that whatsoever. Somehow the enemy team gets a full engage on Riven though behind our inhibitor, and I don't know how, but Riven lives this. So Leona then continues onto me under the Nexus turret, which were insanely greedy considering I have cleanse and therefore I also survive. Urgot tried to follow up on Leona's engage and he becomes on like 1 HP, and all of us have spawned by now, so therefore we just start chasing them into this 5-3, almost 3, because of Urgot being pretty much useless, and we also kill Urgot on the way out with a Lux ult, I believe. The Xin then gets a few return kills because we got a little bit too cocky and we didn't respect him, but we do also end up picking Xin after that. And since Drake is almost spawning now, we really have to try and get soul because the enemies are on soul point. So with Xin dead, we just try and make our way up to the dragon, and we also start doing it, but unfortunately the enemy team is still way too strong and they end up forcing us away from the dragon. And it's really important here that we just don't die, so therefore we just have to get out, because there aren't really any reason to risk dying for the dragon, even though it's soul point, because if we get the dragon but die, we're gonna lose the game because we had an open inhibitor in the bot lane. Really lucky from our side though, then Lux steals the dragon. Since Xin, he was still not at pit, they had no smite, and she ends up stealing with an ultimate, preventing them from getting soul, so this game really became winnable after this steal. And looking back at all of these fights, then my positioning in my opinion was really clean, because I was really utilizing the max range of Kate, meaning that the enemy team was like having a super hard time to try and kill me and often kill me and went for other people, so I was just able to stand behind and just shoot at them. dealing a lot of damage. And as an indie carry, it's always super important to stay alive, because the more XP and gold you get, like eventually you're gonna turn into a monster once you hit those 5 to 6 items. Like at that point, you're really freaking strong. And if you guys haven't noticed, I actually only have 1 kill in the 27 minutes, so I definitely felt the lack of damage from my side, considering everyone on the enemy team had like 6 kills. On the bright side, I only had 3 deaths and was still trying to do as much impact as I possibly could. And we did one of the biggest no-nos. We face checked the jungle, or more likely Lux did, and she ends up walking directly into 4 of them and insta dies. The Sin out and tries to continue the snowballing of kills onto me by flashing and hits an E. I almost die, but with the luck of TF Gold card he saves me from the Sin, and then Yone flies after me as well, and once again I get saved by another gold card, so TF really came in clutch here. And from here on we quickly just make our way back to the base, saving the Nexus turrets from all the super minions that had gathered up from the bot side inhibitor still being open. But this whole scenario was just insanely lucky, because if me or TF had died, the chances of us losing the game would have been 100%, considering how long the death timers are. Therefore, when you have no idea where the enemy team is, if there is 0 objectives for Black Dragon or Baron, do not just blindly walk into jungle. It is literally a death sentence and a game killer. So Baron has now spawned again, and the enemy team is trying to do the same thing as they did last time on us, which is just rush the Baron and hope that we are not even like gonna be able to get there in time. But this time, I feel like we were just not allowing this again, so I'm slowly making my way up a second time, and this time I'm trying to get in from the top side, and my Lux is already here, so I'm not going alone this time. I'm not about to make the same mistake twice. So take red buff. I think Baron hasn't spawned quite yet, but it's about to spawn. And I just want you guys to pay attention to my positioning, because I think it's really clean. So Riven gets all in, and actually, oh, it's Lux. She gets all in and insta-dies to the Blender. But we're still fighting this 4v5. Because we're not giving another Baron, because I feel like at that point we're probably just going to lose the game. So we are under contesting this, and Riven is level 18, so she's really strong by now. So Leona is a little bit too far up, and Yone does an all-in, but he doesn't hit me with the EQ, so he almost gets one shot with my combo. So now Leona and Urgot is in a really weird spot, because they tried to follow, but he just eat back, and we kill both of those. The enemies have now killed the Baron, but I feel like we should just keep going, so I ping we keep going. I flash on Yone, and I almost one-shot him, and then I accidentally fucking hit the ward. That tilted me so bad. So I die, because I hit a ward instead of him on that last auto, where I would have killed him and just lived it completely if I didn't, but fortunately my team does end up acing them. But here, honestly, we probably would have won the game if I didn't auto-attack that ward by accident, because you used the attack move click, and the ward was closer to me than Yone was. So that was just really, really unfortunate, not gonna lie. So yeah. Unfortunately I died there and we don't get to end the game, but at least we aced him after Baron, and now we get to finally take some mid towers. So as you guys can see here, like it's 30 minutes, and there's still a tier 1 tower up in mid lane, and there's also a tier 2 in top lane, so we get both of those. And the Drake, I believe, is spawning somewhat soon. Basically right as I spawn, we're heading down to the Drake, and here you can see that Leona is a little bit far up, and she engages almost completely solo, so we just end up one-shotting her because I hit my trap on her, and I have a lot of damage by now since we're in 31 minutes. So that's my 3rd kill of the game, and now we're actually just deciding to flip the soul, which is really risky. Yone ults in, so I get 4 stats, and it becomes a full flip. Both junglers are in pit, but our jungler fortunately wins it, and Carlos gets pulled into the Blender, which is fine. He's just using his passive. And meanwhile, I'm really trying to get Sin down, and we do end up killing him, and then we go for Urgot. I missed my Q, a bit boosted, but we kill him with ult. So we just got 4 enemies there again, and we just prevented the soul for even longer, and now this game started feeling very winnable. So from here on, the goal was really just to get as much gold as possible while the enemies are dead. So here you can see that I'm just going bot lane, I'm going to shove this out, since the enemies are 3 people dead. But I also do believe I don't continue. Yeah, I just reset it here because I do not want to die. The death timers are so high at this point in the game, so dying is like super risky. So I'm just farming up for my Guardian Angel, I believe I would get here. Yeah, so I'm getting a Guardian Angel, I'm getting the stopwatch. And here we do a really common mistake that I think a lot of people do. So we just won 3 team fights in a row, right? So now we're really confident, and we become too confident. So we almost start trying to dive them. We just picked off Yone, so there's a 4v5, and I think that's one of the reasons we got so confident. But they just end up all engaging us, and I almost got one shot to 6 ult. My stopwatch comes in clutch with my flash on top of that. And if I die here, we lose the game, by the way. So I was literally 1 HP off losing this game. Leona gets a little too hard, and we end up killing her in return. And I just get away here. Kadis kind of puts up his W, and we run back to base. But the riskiness does not end here, because on my way back, we are still fighting, and I end up ulting the 6 and I kill him from the distance, but I almost died to his E because I wasn't paying attention, and now Xin Zhao is hitting me with an E, and I'm back to 1 HP once again, and if I die, I'm pretty sure we lose the game here. So now we just had 2 moments in a row where I'm down to 100 HP, so that's definitely some luck involved here, and some shit positioning, honestly. I've been positioning really clean this whole game, but these last 2 fights, no, Toppe, that's been really fucking bad. We end up killing them now. I killed the 6, so now they're missing one of the strongest members. Xin Zhao has no ult, I believe, after the team fight. So now, okay, he already has it back up again, but we just end up chasing him down, and the Baron just spawns, so we do end up getting Baron. His Guardian Angel gets completely wasted here. I just trap on top of it, and he gets 1 shot. Goodbye, and now we go take the Baron. As soon as we're done with the Baron, we just have to get directly over to Drake. We don't even have time to reset because it's just spawning now. So we have to get that. They try to ambush us with Leona and Yone coming in from the bush, but Yone misses his ult or hit it on 1 person, so it ended up not really mattering. Riven chases down the 6, and with the help of my ultimate, we actually end up killing him. So yeah, now we just try and do the Baron. Unfortunately, 6 used his smite in the fight on Baron, so he doesn't have it, so it still becomes a bit of a flip since Yone can E over the wall, and it comes really close. Now Urgot all-ins me, but fortunately he misses his flip, so I get to live here, and now we actually just try and chase him down. So now we just get on the manhunt, and we end up killing Urgot. A little bit close, but we end up killing him pretty safely. So here we see Xin Zhao walked up in bot lane, and we actually try to catch him. Unfortunately, he did spot us though. And we are actually having our Twist of Fate down right now, so it's a little bit risky to start a fight, but we are trying to get this pick. Unfortunately, our team then gets blasted with 6 ult into all-in engage from the Xin Zhao, and they actually kill our Kadis right away, so now we're in a 3v5. We get a return kill on the Xin, and now Twist of Fate has arrived with his ultimate. Our Lux dies right away though, and now it's just me and Riven. I flash over the wall to try and get the 6 here because I really didn't know what else to do, and I actually ended up killing him because he was the main damage, so therefore I went for him. And now we actually just end up slowly killing them. I have no fucking clue how Riven survived for so long. Like, she just lived with I don't know how long before all of them on their own, and as you guys can see in the base, we got our minions, and if you guys want to see a little clip of me here, then it's just me celebrating, finally winning a 40-minute game. Very intense, and I feel like I did a really good job. I went from being 0-3 to 13-4 and even legendary. Like, my positioning in this game was really good. I had a few moments off, but overall, I was really good, and I was really happy that I won this game because I felt like I played like I deserved it. And if we discuss some of the good things and bad things I did this game, then I feel like I had really good communication, especially in the early game. I was tracking the jungler. I told almost every single time where the Xin Zhao was. So if he was like top side, I would write in chat, Xin Zhao's top side, be careful. Xin Zhao was bot side, let's not push, and all that kind of stuff. So I had really good communication, which I think does prevent a few deaths on the team. And then I also just stayed cool overall. Like, my support was kind of inting, but I didn't really flame her, and I didn't really flame anyone else, even though that was there's a bit of toxicity on the team going on in this game. And even after dying myself, I just started managing waves and let my Lux try and hit her bindings, because that was really the only engage we should go for that was safely. So instead of forcing fights myself, I just waited for her to hit something. And unfortunately, she didn't really hit anything in bot lane, but that just means we didn't really have to start another fight, because I didn't want to be the one initiating another fight and maybe dying, because that would completely get me out of this game. Instead, I just played it safe and stood back and had like 10 CS per minute during the laning phase, which caused me to have a lot of impact later on in the game, even though I was 0-3 at like the 31-minute mark. So I had basically had no gold income kills wise, but I had a lot of gold income minion wise and XP wise. And then I also had a really good positioning. There was those few hiccups where I almost got caught when Lux died and Xin flashed on me, and then in the base, and then there was the one where we all got overconfident. So definitely overconfidence is probably one of the biggest killers of a game, because I tried that a lot, where you win a lot of comeback fights and then all of a sudden you try to dive them and then you die and you actually lose. But somehow I live with 1 HP twice, so that was definitely some luck involved in this game, can't lie. I did still think I have really good positioning overall, and like especially in the last fight when I flashed over the wall onto 6, I knowingly he was one of the main damages. I just wanted to get rid of him as fast as possible, and as soon as I killed him, I could just clean up the rest. And then some of the bad stuff that I feel like I did that I probably should stop doing is like starting an FF vote, because it just causes a lot of tilt to the team that is very unnecessary. And then don't face check Baron at first. Like when I knew the enemy team were doing Baron and it was like on 4k HP, just give it. There's no point to go face check it. I'm just gonna die like I did. And yeah, that was really 0 point for me to do that. It almost threw the game much harder than it should have done. So overall, I did do some mistakes this game. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a little long and a little bit different. If you guys have a game where you're like, I'm not really sure why I won this game, you can always upload it to YouTube or something and send me a link of it and I could take a look at it. I know in this game that I just reviewed, the map had a map cover on because it was from my own stream, so that really sucks. So it would be awesome if you guys have games where there's no map cover, because I feel like I could go even in more detail. Please let me know down in the comments if you like me being so detailed and if you like me going over games like this and how we actually won, because I feel like a lot of people on YouTube always review the losses and not really the wins. So I wanted to try something different. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to stay connected by subscribing, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, guys. Much love.